Trigger warning.
You're awakening the deepest parts of my soul and my whole, like no one ever knows. I treasure your heart. Mine has been broken apart. Give me time and I'll show you how much I want yours. Always a part of mine. You are my soulmate.
Your beautiful face takes me to a place I can never be replaced, since the start you small piece of my heart. Vanessa, get up. Get the fuck up. Your time is not over. Your time is now. Get up.
With my pain and suffering, I was reborn. And with this rebirth, I honor myself and serve no one.
Sometimes there are experiences that shape our lives forever. In Gen Z terms, it is our canon moment. And it could either define you to become the best version of yourself, or it could utterly destroy you. Nonetheless, these moments are an opportunity to create yourself and to create who you want to be. Hi, this is Victoria Fashen and welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be about turning your pain into power. If you don't know, or if you do or you don't, very much into art, mysticism, and alchemy as something I value deeply in my life. Art has always been something I have been deeply passionate about since I was a little girl. Because I grew up in an immigrant household, my family was about the American dream. Get a house, go to school, have a family, have a white picket fence and all that. That's something I never wanted for myself. However, I started getting more brainwashed of the idea of art won't make you money or you cannot survive. Even though there was a period in my life where I was still very much into art, I still enjoyed the works of Salvador Dali, Frida Kahlo, and H.R. Geiger. I was not really immersing myself as I am now in my adult years. If anything, as I started getting older, I started getting more distracted into my romantic life, my social life, and just trying to figure out myself, who I was, even though I was very lost. I kind of put my art on the side. Just really didn't care about it too much, even though I always felt like there was something missing in my life and I was never fully fulfilled. Part of my life I'd never thought I would discuss about because it is one of the most vulnerable moments in my life. I think there was a pivotal moment for everyone that was very vulnerable during the pandemic. I didn't even want to talk about him ever or the situation, because I did not want to give him the satisfaction of his ego. But this is my story, and this is part of my story, and this is why I'm going to talk about it. During the pandemic, I met somebody, and I met somebody online. Actually, I met them at a house party. Months later, during the pandemic, he added me on Facebook and we started talking and we hit it off. And then we realized we had a conversation. During the pandemic, I was actually really okay. Like, the issues I had from my previous relationship. 2019 was probably one of the best years of my life. I saw Bauhaus, I went on constant adventures, I was okay financially, so it was great, and I just had a good support system. 2020 rocked our world upside down. I actually was glad that I was able to stay home because I was like, okay, good, I could rest. I could not work constantly. I could finally focus on art or creating artistic concepts. I was even starting to implement ideas to go back to YouTube. When I met this person, we were talking nonstop. I felt like we were meant to be together. We had so much in common. Despite the 12-year difference, I felt like I could laugh with him, I could joke with him, I could be romantic with him, and he was very much into humanitarian activities. He was very much into, he was a punk rocker at heart, so he was very much like, he was very rebellious, and I like that, like that. I like a man who can be able to know who they are and protect themselves and fight. And I simply adored that about him, but also I felt like he was my person because we were very much into poetry, we were very much into art, and we connected so well with that. And he was also very much into spirituality, and there was some like, I love this person so much that I was willing to move from Southern California to another state, leave everything and everyone behind, because like I said, I thought this person was the one for me. Then as soon as we were able to, the regulations in California were a lot more lenient. We saw each other, and I practically lived with him. We were like this close. And that was bad. That was really bad. Like, I didn't want to be apart from him. But I practically moved at his house, and I just only stayed at my parents' house for like a day or two. It was great the first 6 months. We were like, as soon as the lockdown became less strict, we started traveling together. We started doing all the things that like we wanted to do, and just even being home with this person I was happy. And then as soon as the course of the relationship started having a lot of misunderstandings, there was codependency issues that were not only from my end but on his end. There was a lack of communication and seeing eye to eye because we're both very stubborn people. I started disappearing from my friends. I started like not seeing my family, and it was really rough. Like, it was bad. I wasn't even seeing my dog at this time. Towards the end of 2020, it started becoming unstable. There was the foundation of the relationship. There was really not a good foundation to begin with anyways. We ended up taking a break from each other, and then one thing led to another. He ended up breaking up with me. And he broke up through text. Then we tried to make amends towards like in April, and for whatever reason, that second breakup, I've never felt so vulnerable in my entire life. I've never felt that much heartbreak in my entire life. Questioning myself. I was with somebody for almost 10 years. This first man abused me in so many ways. And emotionally, mentally, physically. It was also a narcissist too. Whatever I experienced in my other relationship it almost was like I just fell down and just got a scab on my leg. This one cut so deep, and I lost myself a lot. It was a very catalytic moment in my life. I've never felt so vulnerable for a romantic partner in my life. The moments where the first couple weeks, I couldn't even breathe. Life just felt suffocating. I was so delicate, I was very fragile, and I was so depressed. It got so bad that I started dismissing everything in my life, meaning resources, my family, my friends. I just wanted to be in my room. The state that I was in, I practically was inviting death onto my doorstep. A couple months later, I was still heartbroken. I trying to get distracted. And I'm not the type of person that once I break up with somebody, I'm gonna have a rebound. That's not my style. I don't like that. People say the easiest way to get over somebody is through being with somebody else, but I just don't like that. And in order for me to sleep with somebody and be intimate, I have to fully feel safe to begin with and trust them. And so I ended up distracting myself, hanging around with my friends. I went to a store to see what kind of clothes they have for the party that they were having. The street was very busy. If you're in the valley, it was in Reseda Boulevard, but I left my door open for 30 seconds and I was going to leave my purse in the car, but I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take it with me. So right when I was about to get out, I grabbed my purse but my leg was dangling on the door outside. I put my foot back in right when I grabbed my purse, and then I just feel a shock and I just feel my door getting smashed. And I was scared. I was so scared. I thought I was gonna die that day. Because if I would have, just by 1 second, if I would have stepped out, my foot would have, I probably wouldn't have a foot, or I would have been dead. I was panicking. It was a very interesting time for me. During the pandemic, I was going through my Saturn return. So what is a Saturn return? Saturn return is every 30 years, every 28 to 30 years, Saturn goes back to returns back to that zodiac sign. And it occurs every 30 years because Saturn is a slow moving planet, and it basically collects all the karma, good karma, bad karma, and basically pushes you to grow up. And it puts you in these situations where, again, they could either make you or break you. My Saturn is in Aquarius in the third house. Third house rules like small travels, cars, siblings, family, communication. What else is it? Oh, and small travels. So it would make sense why this occurred with my car, because it was a step back to my car out of my own pocket because I was at fault. And because I tend to put a lot of people first, especially people I love and care about, I put them first. And especially my romantic partners, it was time for me to just be alone and just be by myself. I was so stressed out that time that I ended up getting a new job, and this job was very toxic. Management was, they thought they were doing a good job, but they suck at leadership and managing people, and it was just very toxic. I even started developing habits of smoking and drinking coffee. I wouldn't necessarily drink that much. However, there was alcohol involved in this relationship a lot. So as soon as we stopped being together, stopped even entertaining or even drinking alcohol. However, with all these events that occurred in late 2020 to 2021, that's when I realized I need to go to therapy and I need to discover who I am, because this life is not meant for me. I can't do this anymore. And before you think I am an unhinged person, I am not. I am actually a very calm, loving, and wild at heart person, but also I do tend to overthink. But I am just, I'm a very highly sensitive person. A highly sensitive person is a person who their nervous system naturally process everything on a much deeper level. For example, a lot of artists tend to be on this in this label because they feel everything so deeply and so intensely, and this influences who we interact with, what people, our environments. And I always knew I was very deeply misunderstood throughout my entire life, and I hated how much I felt. I hated all these feelings that I had. I often thought like my presence and the way my emotions are and the way how I feel was a curse, because it was so hard for me to connect with those around me. As I started getting a lot older, through my teenage years, I've realized it's much safer to be alone. Also, like I think my parents just didn't have the proper tools to handle a child like me, and that's okay. I'm not blaming my parents at all whatsoever. It's just they did the best that they could. And in 2021, I wanted to get over this person because it was just too much for me. I needed time to process every emotion I felt. All these emotions, I started realizing that I needed to rediscover myself again. Although I was in a very delicate state, I knew something inside me was dying. I knew a part of myself was dead. However, there was a new side of me that was starting to, there was a piece of my soul that was gone, but I was being revived, and there was a rebirth occurring and was stirring up. I just didn't know what it was yet. So while I was in therapy, I did a lot of inner child work. And even though sometimes I would get so annoyed with my therapist, even though I loved my therapist, she was amazing, I would still get a little annoyed because she would always go back, well, your little girl's like, I don't want to talk, I don't even want to think about that right now. I want to talk about, what's going on. Being in therapy put me in a very introspective state. I started asking myself, and especially that I journal a lot too, I started asking myself and writing down these questions. Why do I do the things I do? Why do I self-sabotage a lot? Why do I get myself in these dangerous situations? And that's when I realized I have a anxious attachment style, which I disagree. I think I have a very disorganized attachment style, and I people please a lot. I realize I put a lot of my partners first than my own well-being, to the point that I did not have boundaries. Now that's why I'm the boundary queen, I guess you could say, because I hated saying no, but now I love saying no. It's like it's become a superpower to say no. One day I started, out of the blue, I just googled surrealism. I started searching about what the surrealism movement is about, and notable figures such as Andre Breton, who wrote the Surrealist Manifesto, Salvador Dali, Jean Cocteau, Anne Ray, Max Ernst, Rene Magritte, and Leonore Fini. These are just a handful of surrealists that I was researching a lot. And surrealism is a cultural movement and also an artistic movement that happened between World War I and World War II. So it was around the 30s and 40s. Surrealism was actually influenced by psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud, who wrote a book called The Interpretation of Dreams. And it's about bringing your unconsciousness and to life, and how important it is to tap into your unconsciousness. And I found that very fascinating and intriguing. I also was studying a lot more other subjects such as philosophy, art, other artistic movements. And one that really resonated and captivated my attention was the Romantic period. The Romanticism period was started around in the late 1700s. It values following your heart. Romanticism is about honoring your emotions despite how heavy and despite how serene they feel. It's a song and philosophy for the artists, the bohemians, the poets, the writers. And to be a romantic is to honor nature and the nature within yourself, and to have space for your sensitivity and transcend your emotions into something bigger and just honor them. These goals from the past made this 21st century modern woman much more understood than any other person in her life. Aside from surrealism and the Romantic period, I also got into academic art, classical art, neoclassicism, the pre-Raphaelites. Oh, I can't say them. I can never say the pre-Raphaelites. So I'm sorry if I'm like messing that up. But and even like Victorian botanicals, and I started trading, going to clubs and going out with friends and going to botanical gardens, going to museums, even sanctuaries, which I found that much more peaceful, and it's something that I needed at that time because it made me feel much better than just being around with a bunch of people that I just didn't want to be around. I knew that I was changing, and and even though I still felt delicate, I felt so delicate and vulnerable for about a year and a half. And I was trying to mend my broken heart together, and I knew that I was changing. Even though I felt delicate during this time, and I was trying to mend my broken heart back together, I was also eating a lot of mushrooms. So I probably tripped about 4 or 5 times that year alone. And usually I either take mushrooms like once or twice a year. Sometimes I don't even, there's years where I don't even eat mushrooms because I just wanted to escape reality. And if not, I would actually go and drive to Malibu, California. Aside from studying art, I was getting more into philosophy, like I said, spirituality a lot heavier. And I started getting more involved into glamour and magic and even my own magical practices. I started honoring my spirit guides and my ancestors who have passed. Love magic, honoring Venus, and honoring the morning star. I ended up getting Amor Fati tattooed on my knuckles. It's a Latin term that from that Friedrich Nietzsche adopted from the great philosophers of Greece, and it's basically means to love your life no matter what and honor it and cherish it, because it's your life and it's your life only. And despite the pain I felt grieving for the love that I lost, a part of my naivety was gone. Death of my 20s and my adult and my youth, I found my strength. I started falling in love with my essence. I was in my own personal hell, and I created heaven in the process through balancing out my subconscious and my consciousness. And although I do have CPTSD and I have certain flare-ups that cause me feeling trapped in my own skin at times, I found the inner child in me that I never let out to the world, the one that is artistic and the creative one. As I started healing from this whole experience, I told myself, I made like a pact, an imaginary pact to my inner child and to myself, that I will never, ever let myself be in this position again, especially for a man. My sensitivity is a strength. It's not a curse. My creativity and my artistic side, along with my spirituality side, is not a curse. It's a strength. It is my superpower, you can say. my sensitivity along with my spiritual side and my artistic side go hand in hand. Immersing myself with the divinity of life and having these human experiences is something that is very precious to me and something that's very valuable to me. And even though my heart is not fully healed, there's still that black little spot that's like, that's still hurting. Filled my heart and I filled those creases with gold. And I did that for myself. Nobody else. It was me. And if I let my heart stay broken, I would have given my ex the satisfaction that he broke me. And I'm not going to give anybody or nobody that satisfaction to have anyone break me. You could break me for a period of time, but you can't break me completely, because my spirit is so much strength that I built for myself. And that is the foundation that I created during this pivotal moment of my life. I also never gonna let anybody take advantage of my kindness ever again. So my darlings, what was a canon moment in your life? What made you rediscover yourself all over again? How were you able to transform yourself into the best version of yourself? How were you able to become brave when life forced you to become brave? If you're wondering why I am making these videos and why I am so open on myself, is because one of the reasons why I made YouTube videos to begin with is the fact that I wished I had somebody to... One of the reasons why I'm making these kinds of videos a lot more, especially in regards to mental health, because I always felt alone growing up, and I felt this deep sense of loneliness, and I felt misunderstood. And I know that there's a lot of people in this world out there that are very similar to me. Growing up, especially in a Latino household, it could be very alienating, because unfortunately, being in a Latino household, a lot of parents don't believe in mental health at all. So mental health, emotional health, and often don't really see you as... They don't really see who you are. Instead, it's more like, well, you're my daughter, these are the rules, or this is what you need to succumb to because you're my daughter, and it's things like that. And that's one of the reasons why I'm passionate about talking about this and being so open, because if it was my choice, I'll be a little bit more private about it. One of my love languages is acts of service, and I care about people. And I care about humanity. And I truly believe when you start working on yourself and when you start loving yourself, that is when you're able to change the world, and it will become like a domino effect. If you guys like this video, let me know in the comments. I hope you guys like this video. I know it's a very introspective video, but let me know what you think. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.